Hi, my name is Max Ruebensal. I'm a Berlin artist, mainly focused around abstract art and figurative art within the topic of anatomy and abstract eyes. So for me, it wasn't really a moment where I decided, okay, I'm gonna do art or not. I guess with a lot of artists, it's really a slowly process. First mentally accepting, okay, art is something that I want to do, and then obviously also carrying out that decision into the public, to your family, and then into the bigger public as well. So I think I never really considered becoming a professional artist before 2016, when I was still studying art history and was preparing to do some work in cultural institutions. But then I had the opportunity to work in an international gallery in Shanghai, and that really changed my perception of what is possible as an artist. And ever since I had this idea in my head, okay, art is really the driving force in my life, and I want to keep it that way. So I've always been drawn to artists that juggle within the two topics of being very personal, but also being very universal. And there are many contemporary artists, especially British artists, who do this very well. I'm also drawn to artists that have a lot of symbolism in it, like Hilma Klint, for example. So always trying to juggle themes of science, spirituality, personal, universal, so always trying to find a sweet spot in between. So when I started out as an artist, I did a lot of sculptures and installations, mainly around the topic of anatomy art. And I'd say the topic, anatomy and the beauty within our body, has stayed the same, but the medium and the way to express has changed drastically. So now, or since a couple of years already, I'm focusing more on painting and working in also a lot of experimental techniques. So back in the day, I was more a conceptual artist, thinking about everything in my head before going to work. And now I involve some practices that basically force me to just let it go, let some randomness happen. And now I'd say I'm sitting in between these worlds, conceptual and experimental. So the concept of time obviously is a very interesting one, because it's exactly what I'm trying to reach with every artwork. So time is something that is very universal to all of us. We are thinking about our time on the planet, if our time runs out. So that's like a very universal thing. But on the other hand, time is also very personal. So we spend most of our time thinking about how do we spend our individual time. So the topic of time is something that sits in between personal and universal. And that's something that I try to account for in most of my work. So time for me is kind of like one of the driving factors for science. So it's a measurement. It's a way of measuring things that change. And I've always been very interested about the relationship between science and spirituality. So while we may have a realistic iris on the one hand, we also have some people who do iridology, who have like charts in the iris and think about, okay, how can I see illnesses in the eyes? And I think it's just very interesting to think about how all these different things seem to coexist, spirituality and science, and also how they might affect each other and might be in a relationship or playing with each other. These works, or specifically this work, is easier to understand if you saw my previous work. So I'm doing a lot of round abstract eyes, and obviously this reflects my work with irises and eyes as well, but in a more complex, more universal kind of way, with combining it with this type of chart, which also is reminiscent of a clock.